Okay, so carrying on from where we left off, we need to kind of use some kind of darker shades in here, some darker brown shades in here. So okay, so I'm going to be using the probably try more or less like a different brush in here. Still the same depth brush, but maybe something slightly different. Maybe so I'm going to be using this depth 3. So let's see the result that gives us. Oh, let's switch this to hitting X on the keyboard to switch this to white. Okay, that seems slightly too aggressive. Probably take down the flow and the stroke opacity down a bit more. I think this should work. Okay, so I'll just go to take down the brush down a bit more. So I hit C on the keyboard to go to this view, the albedo view instead. So I keep spraying this on here. Let me see if I can adjust not the spacing this time. Size it, I guess. Okay. Doesn't make too much of a difference though, but I think let's just continue on M on the keyboard and keep spraying this just to break up the surface a bit more. I might just go over some parts even more. Probably take down the size around here. So there should be more around here in the center. And around here also. Okay. And just underneath where the abs sit, so kind of spray around there, even here also. Let me change my light a bit more. Kind of like how this breaks up the surface even more. So this part definitely needs to be a bit darker. Okay. Maybe increase the brush size. Alright. So I don't want to do this on symmetry because I have to do this out of symmetry, so it gets somewhat like a better result around this. Though I'm still going to lower the intensity for this a bit more. But for now, let's just get this as visible as we possibly can in here. This for the other side also. Just keep spraying this around here. If you take a closer look, you notice that most of this lower part of the arm, especially from around here downwards, is a bit darker in nature. So I need to spray this around all those parts even more. But before I do that, let me kind of tackle the legs. I'll do the hand as like the last thing. So I'll just keep spraying this around here. I think this size should be fine, so just keep spraying this all around, just to break the surface even more. Though most of this is not going to be visible because most of this part is going to be covered, but I would just like to show the entire body more love, so most of this part doesn't look neglected. I'm just going to spray this all over. Once going to get the parties very close and tight to themselves. For this part needs to be a bit more obvious, so I'm going to try as much as possible to kind of darken this even more. Probably use a bigger brush size so we can cover more regions a bit faster. Okay. So even the lower part of the legs also should be a bit darker. Most especially on the knuckles. But before we do that, let's get a smaller size of this and just break up most of the surface around here. So let me just hit C on the keyboard and look at the albedo. This is the albedo map. So with this albedo map now, you get a clearer idea or better idea what we are actually painting in here. This is just to break up the surface. I think I might even do another pass of this, but with a more lighter, maybe probably with more lighter shade to it. Okay, so let's go to the other side and then just repeat the same thing around here. Okay. Okay. So let's check this out from the main color. You can see how from a distance this kind of breaks up the surface even more. It gives it a more interesting look to it, which is precisely what we want. So I think I might just even continue on with this same brush stroke around it, but not after getting bigger strokes around some of this first. Okay, so let's get some bigger strokes in here. Maybe even increase the opacity a bit more for this nail part, just to darken it up even more. It's more or less like so, as a good, to just serve as a good base for us. Okay, even make this part a bit darker. Take this down. Some of this part should be a bit darker also. Same here. The tone for the neck is something somewhat different, but so let me just lower the opacity for this and then just darken around the neck. This is not obvious. Let me just make it slightly obvious. Falls even more around here. This can act as a base pass on this. Now lower the brush size and then just put the same thing around here. This should just be a bit broken up, like so. It shouldn't be aggressively obvious, but it should still be there. Also around the corners of the eyes, around here. On the other side also. Okay. We'll make it slightly a bit more obvious around this region. All the way here. Make it a bit more obvious to see. Okay. Let's get this around here also. me take this down. Just break up this part even more, like so, all the way also in here. Okay. So still with this smaller or lighter stroke, we can, yes, this little part needs to be a bit more obvious, so we'll probably increase this even more and get this all the way up, all the way up. Just kind of darken around this even more, just make it pop out from the rest. Okay, do the same for the other side. Okay, then take this back down to the way it was before. I don't do the hands yet, because I feel there's still something to do around here. So let me just go to the albedo. With a brush like this, then I think something like this should be fine. Maybe slightly lower. So I want to use this to kind of break up the surface even more. This will just break up the entire surface even more, so the surface does not look too uniform. It's not very obvious, but still there. It is just precisely what we need, just to break up the surface even more. Yeah, I can pretty much go around the entire model and then just break the surface up. Then whichever place I need to be more dark, I can just darken that up. But for now, let's just break up the uniformity of the entire surface. Okay. I'm basically kind of making this like another layer of patches around this to break up the surface. Okay. I believe I'll do the same thing also for the face, but with something more small, much smaller. Okay. Yeah, this under part needs to be darker. So I need to increase this, darken this up even more. I can take this back. Okay. Let me be sure if I covered this part properly. I'm also slightly changing the size of the brush just to have some variations in size too. That should help sell the texture even more. Okay. Now we can move to the hands. So first things first, let's just break up the uniformity of the texture of the arm even more. Maybe take down the size even more, a bit down, and just break the surface up. The knuckles we can deal with later. Let's just break up the general surface of this. Even the elbows, supposed to darken that even more. Okay. Let me check this with shaded turned on. Let's get a closer look on this. You can see how that breaks up the surface even more. It's not very obvious, but I can definitely see that. This looks a bit more like skin now than just normal regular splashes of paint on top of this. You can see how it's broken up. The surface feels a bit broken up, which is precisely what we want. So, yes, for the other side of the arm, let's do for the other side of the arm also. So I see just go to the albedo texture, probably increase the brush size a bit more, and begin to break up the surface even more. Like I said, this is just going to be like an undertone on top of this, just to break the evenness of the surface before we can use other brushes to kind of add some more larger form of color variation in there. So this is just like an undertone breakup. Probably take down the brush now, brush size even down a bit more. I can also see some other reddish undertone on top of this, but not undertone, rather overtone on top of this. It's a bit of like a kind of reddish brown on top of the skin itself. So I might need to add that later on, but for now we're still breaking the surface up even more. Okay. Okay, this should be fine. So I feel this part feels way too obvious. So I'm just going to switch to, I think X key to switch to black, so I can erase some of this. Feels way too harsh on the surface. I'm just going to break this down, kind of more or less like try to soften it. More or less trying to soften this on top of it. Okay. Yes. Let me increase it a bit more so I can do this a bit quicker. Okay. Yeah, that feels more like it. Be also. Then instead I'll just introduce hit X on the keyboard. I'll introduce with a smaller brush size. I'll just paint over the same place just to make it look a bit tight, closer to themselves. A bit tighter. It should be a bit tighter so that from a distance it kind of gives the effect of it being blurred out, but it's not entirely blurred out when you kind of get a closer look on this. They're only tightly together, that's why it's from a distance look as if it's kind of blurred out. Just like this. So something more or less like this is what we're going for. So this one in the center needs to be a bit even more darker. But we're going to introduce darker variations to this though later on. And some more reddish overtone on top of this. So now for the arms, we need something a bit darker for the arms. So I think so this part should be lighter, unlike this lower part of the arm. So let's kind of darken this lower part of the arm. So I'm going to be using the same brush, but I'm just going to make it more visible. Just kind of check what we have with this. Now that feels a bit too dark. Let's take this down and this down a bit more. I'll just go over this. Yes, this feels a bit much better. So with a tighter, a smaller brush size, we can make this a bit tighter. It's precisely what we want. So something like this all the way here. Like so. I hit C on the keyboard. The idea is that from a far view, it should look a bit blurred out. But from a close-up view, it should look like broken up patches to give you that believable look. That's basically what we're trying to achieve here. So that even when we're looking at it from a far distance and from a close-up view, it gives that realistic vibe to it. Okay. So we need that all the way down here. So let me just get this from a distance. See some gaps we need to close. So we can have just a lighter brush stroke of that around here. Shouldn't be too obvious though. So let's check this out. Okay. Yes, this is nice. Okay. So let's repeat the same. Let's just repeat the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to try and mark out the region first. Let me try to mark out that region first. Let me just do a quick save for this. Okay. Basically trying to map out the region where I need to have to be darkened before going to the albedo view. So now I can go to the albedo view. Now I know where I need to paint to darken all the way down. Okay. I'll just keep doing strokes all on top of this. Well, still more or less a far way off though, but at least we're making significant progress on this. Okay. Usually this part is darker because this part is actually more visible to the sun. So any regions of the body that is more visible to the sun gets tanned more or less in English, more simpler terms, it means it gets, just that part of the skin becomes a bit darker in tone compared to the other parts of the skin. That's why I'm trying to make where it's going to be visible to the sun a bit more darker. So we're guessing this guy wears more of short sleeves, so that should give the impression that this part of the arm should be a bit darker compared to the other parts. So let me just lower this down a bit more, then do lighter strokes on top of this. Just kind of get a more like a transitional blend flow of colors between the two of them. Do the same thing also for the other side. So where we have the ankles needs to be, for the elbow rather, needs to be way darker. So I'll just push this all the way up and darken these ankles, these elbows rather, keep saying ankles, I don't know why. So that kind of went overboard, so let's just erase that. Okay. Let's take a similar brush size and kind of even that out at the ends. Okay. Same here also. Let's bring that back in. Increase that all the way. And repeat the same process around here. Probably need a more darker tone to this to kind of sell this off even more. Yeah, the hair definitely needs to be darkened. So let's darken this out. Most of this part is going to be covered with hair though, but let's just get something, a darker tone around there. Okay. Alright. I think we can kind of move to the back now and try to just make up for some of the dark regions for the back. Okay. Shouldn't be too obvious though. Let's kind of take this down. Let's get some better transition around there. Okay. Let's get this a bit darker. Take down the brush size so we have a bit more of a tighter stroke around there. Let's darken this part of the butt. So I'll just go over this a few more times, just to have a more darker shade around there. I'll hit X on the keyboard just to lighten these parts, the sides, like so. Okay. You can see how the back part is a bit darker. Let me take this down. And let's introduce a more darker tone to this at the back. Let's get all this even darker. This just be a first pass though. This just be just a first pass to this. This particular one needs to be more darker. Okay. And take this down, take this down. Let's start with a broader stroke first. Just to cover more regions of this. Let's see how this looks. It looks a bit darker. Let's darken it a bit more. So kind of seeing a some kind of reddish brown tone on top of this, which I would fix in a bit. But before I do that, I would like to introduce one more darker tone to this. So let me just duplicate this. Then I'll clear the marks. Let's start with the white marks. And I'm choosing more of like a dark, more of like a brown, most reddish tone to this. Let's try black marks. Seems to be taking forever to load. So I'm going to delete this, remove this marks for now, and try to pick this color. That's more like a reddish, or something like this kind of tone around this. Let's see. Roughness should be a bit rougher. Put this around here. This I need to make even a bit rougher than this. Okay, I'm going to use should probably even use some kind of marks for this. Let's try black marks. Then let's introduce a fill to this. Let's try some cloud. Let's try this one. This should even be underneath this, I believe. This kind of brown. The tone looks somewhat good. Except maybe we just need to. Let's see the marks. Let's see how this is the marks for this. Maybe put this on the triplanar mapping. Then the scale, let's try a scale of 3 on this. Put this here. Contrast. We need so much of a contrast in there. I would like to also blur this out, so let me add the filter. I'll add the blur filter to this. Probably try a filter of 2. Okay. That seems to work fine. Except I'll need to probably maybe lower this down. Probably something like this should be fine. Then I'll create a new layer on top of this and add like a, let's see, maybe okay, let me just add like some kind of reflectivity to this. Let me just turn off probably just make this slightly reflective. See how broken up the surface is now. You compare this to this. This we have some level, may not be exactly like this, but at least we have some level of breakup in here that is quite interesting, that gives a more believable result to it. Okay, with that we need to kind of work a bit more on the face. Face still needs a bit of work to kind of get to look right or look better than it is right now. So I think there's something else I need to do. Yes, I'm supposed to look for a more blacker or darker tone to this particular one. Something almost black. So let me just duplicate this. Let me probably name this. Let's probably name this red brown. Name this to patches. Okay. Then I believe yes, upward. So this one should be a bit darker. So I'm just going to add the black marks to this to erase everything that is there already. Okay, just giving this too much of an intense look, which I'm trying to avoid. Okay. So this one should be towards the dark side. Yes, I said it. So towards the dark side. So I'm going to take this down. Should probably even use this instead. So I more or less have something darker around the center part. Something more or less like so. So from a distance, it kind of looks softer. So it looks softer from a distance, which is precisely what we want. Probably take down the brush size a bit more. Something more or less like so. If you want to leave the edges having this faded or different, almost not too similar tone, but kind of a bit not the same from the origin, from the darker part in the center. So we need to do this also for the elbow. So since we already have something in there, we can just splash this on there. Something more or less like this should be fine. Yeah, something more or less like that should work just fine. Okay. Right. Same here also. Maybe not too much, but that's just enough to show that that part is actually a bit darker than the rest of the bodies. Probably do this also around here for some of these knuckles. But this part is not going to be visible though, but at least they just have something in there regardless. Okay. Let's do the same for something like this. Should be fine. Let's see how that turned out around here. So we have something darker around here too. So tapping this even more. Okay. While we take this down, I see some dark shades around some of these parts, like around here. Okay, so now for the knuckles, I think we can do this for the knuckles now. Okay, tapping this part of the knuckles. Okay, now for the other side. It should be a bit broader. Okay, here also should be a bit darker. Probably that's too dark. Let's just take this down a bit more. Okay, okay, think we can call this done for now. Then the next lesson we can continue working on this, especially on the face. Especially on the face, we seem to have some interesting looking details on the face. Just make this feel a bit different from the rest of the body. That's it now. For the most part, this looks just about right, if I should say. This looks just about right. Let me come in here and then select this paintbrush. Probably get some brighter tone on top of this. Probably make this a bit brighter than it is right now. Like so. Same for the other side. Can do this on some of the regions, some of these areas to make it a bit better. So right now we have a greater control over this because you can just move in between layers and then just brighten some parts up and darken some other parts. So we have the greater control over this, over the entire color variation on this to make it even better than it already is. Which is more or less like the goal for this, just to have ultimate control over it, over every element of this, of your model. You can even do something similar also for the back. Brighten this part up. Okay. These corners of the going to brighten this part, these regions up a bit more. Okay, I think it should be fine. So I'll just do a quick save. In the next lesson, we'll just continue working on this and make this better than it is right now. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.